Well done, mate.
I'll get it like good.
An early flashpoint with one clan of Aborigines, the Gadigal clan, I believe, illustrates the first stages of the conflagration of oppression and conflict which has, over the following century, spread across the continent to dispossess, degrade and devastate the Aboriginal peoples and leave a national legacy of unutterable shame. That was written by William Dean and Mary Gaudron as Justices on the High Court for the Mabo No. 2 case. If you listen to those words, it says it all. There's not much else to say. Unutterable shame. It was their hope that we could fix it, and I do believe firmly that we will fix it. It is their wish, or was their wish, that we would do things as an Aboriginal community and the general Australian community together. And it's also mine. Today we meet on the country of the Wongal clan, which is one of the 2009 clans of the Eora Nation. And I think there's a fair chance I'm preaching to the choir right now. I hope so. The Wongal people, about 200 of them, and probably, I can't remember the number, there'd be a number of families, and there are probably 20 or 30 families, just like everybody else, mum, dad, kids, grandparents. They were one of the 29 clans, and this country we're on has been occupied by the Wongal clan people for 22,000 years. And it is proven, it's not a guess, scientifically proven. There's a midden down by the Cooks River in Tempe that was dated, and the same people wandered up here. The midden is on Gadigal country, but we'll share it with them. There's no doubt either that the 64,000 years of the occupation of the continent and surrounding islands by the Aboriginal people is the oldest living culture on the planet, bar none. So it's a privilege really to be part of that, and we would like you all as Australians to share in the honour, I guess, of being part of that old culture that is still thriving. So on behalf of the elders past and present of the Wongal clan, I welcome you all here today to Aboriginal land. It always was and always will be.
I'm just so very pleased we have the opportunity now to finally complete the journey that we've been on for constitutional recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We've got the right man at the right moment. We've got the leadership finally. What the Prime Minister has done, he has taken up the mantle that Indigenous Australians wanted a leader to take up on our behalf. He's taken our idea forward in this referendum. It's an idea we worked long and hard on, working with other Australians over 5 governments, 6 parliaments, and we finally have a chance to get the Australian people to say yes in a referendum. We've got 4 weeks to go, and I'm asking all of you, Australians of goodwill, to get behind the campaign and ensure that we don't miss this opportunity we have as Australians to get this right. We've got the leadership, we've got a government that has been completely honouring of the Uluru Statement from the Heart and exhibiting great courage in supporting us in this campaign. We could not ask for better. I really believe that Australia is going to make a turn for the better. The country's going to improve when we do this. Recognition has been too long left in the too hard basket. Think about the first line in the words the Prime Minister shepherded through the Parliament, in recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first peoples of Australia. They're simple words, but they're very profound words, and they will grace our national basic law. So I believe that when Australians focus on the words, and I urge all of you to actually bring the discussion back to the actual words, because that's what we're voting on, not all of the kind of, attempts to create controversies all around the place. That's what they're doing. They're just dropping little controversy firecrackers all over the place. The real business is the words of the amendment. And talk Australians through these words, and I'm finding that the soft nose start listening. They start understanding that, this is what this is about. Not all of the stuff people have been trying to raise controversies around. Let me just tell you one maybe funny thing about controversies. If Jesus were trying to get the words, "Blessed are the meek," into the Bible, imagine what they'd be doing to it on the internet. Blessed. What's that mean? Somebody getting more than somebody else? Is this a preference of some sort? Blessed? The meek? Why are the meek getting something more than us? And then the last bit, of course, is inherit the earth. There's your backyards. There's your beaches. There's your national parks. Gone. Let's focus on the words. It's the most profound, beautiful, simple adorning of our Constitution. So I'm so very pleased to see my people from Summerhill. 40 years it's been. Very pleased to see you out in force. I really want us to get behind the campaign. We've got 4 weeks, we can do it.
4 weeks to go, folks. Just 4 weeks. To change the country for the better. Earlier today, just a few hours ago, I was in Coffs Harbour. And I was opening Urilla Place, which is a new civic centre, magnificent art gallery, including visual arts, particularly celebrating Indigenous culture and Indigenous art. And there, the person who gave the welcome to country was the chair of the local Indigenous Consultative Committee. Coffs Harbour Council has one. Marrickville Council, or Inner West Council it is now, I'm showing my age there, has one. To listen to people about matters that directly affect them. And it struck me that that's exactly what we're trying to do on a national level. Noel spoke about the first sentence in the change that is being proposed in recognition of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first peoples of Australia. Very, very clear. But the next 3 points are really clear too. The second is just there shall be a body to be called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. There'll be a body. What will it do? What it will do, it may give advice on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people affairs. So that's what it will do. And the third is, how will it do it? It will do it based upon legislation through the National Parliament for the composition, functions, procedures of the voice. So the Parliament retains its primacy. So what this is about is allowing advice to be given from people who are directly affected, Indigenous Australians, to Parliament and to government on matters that affect their lives. Just an advisory body. Nothing scary, nothing to be fearful of here. An advisory body that will have the power of its ideas. The power of its ideas. And what we know is that up to this point, with the best of intentions, parliaments have done things for or to Indigenous Australians, not with them. And what this is simply asking, and all that my government and those people of goodwill like Julian Leeser from the Liberal Party, like Andrew Gee, who resigned his position on the front bench, like all the crossbenchers, the minor political parties, are all saying is, we will say yes to what is a very gracious and generous request from Indigenous Australians. It's from them. This hasn't come from politicians. This has come from Indigenous Australians after politicians asked them, Tony Abbott in particular, set up a process to ask them what form should recognition take. And the request is extraordinarily generous in my view. If we're fearful of change, we will never make any. Because all change requires a step by definition into doing something that we haven't done before. But you can't change a country for the better through fear. You can only change it for the better through hope and optimism and being positive. And I want to pay tribute to my friend Noel here, who I've got to know over the years. He is, in my view, the best orator in Australia, bar none. And Noel, through his university degree here, is someone who has achieved a lot in his life. He's risen to great heights, but he hasn't pulled up the ladder behind him. What Noel wants is for that ladder to be there for the people who haven't been able to climb, for the future generations as well. And we know that in order to do that, the key is empowerment and engagement. And that with having a voice will also come greater responsibility. We'll actually get, this is a fiscally conservative proposition, my friends. This will result in better efficiencies, because we're not talking about the need to spend more money. A lot of money has been spent, but it isn't getting to where it should be, because with the best of intentions, we have had a voice from Canberra for 122 years. A voice from Canberra saying this is what you should do and this is where you should do it. What we're asking for here is a voice to Canberra from local Indigenous communities in order to achieve better outcomes. So this week, Michael Long arrived in Parliament House, the great Essendon player and a great Indigenous leader from the Northern Territory. He arrived and walked all the way for the second time. He walked all those years ago, back in 2004, to meet John Howard and to ask for something better, to ask for change. And this time round, he walked again from Melbourne all the way to Parliament House. And what I did and what we're all being asked to do is to just walk a few steps. Indigenous Australians have walked so far. This bloke and other leaders have the patience of saints. They have walked and walked and walked without anger, without animosity, with friendship and love for their fellow Australians. And what they're saying is, we have walked on this journey. They're asking Australians to just walk a few steps. There's a hand out stretched of friendship, and they're asking Australians to not dismiss that, but just to join the hand, as I will now, in friendship. We can do it. I'd ask all of you, 4 weeks, 28 days, 10 people a day, that's 280 people, but we'll give you a discount. Talk to 250 people each in the next 4 weeks, because that is how this will be won. With one-on-one conversations. One-on-one conversations. Every time I go into a school, they get this. It's like the apology. It's like marriage equality. When it's all done, people will wonder why we didn't do it before. We will get this done. Australians will vote yes, and we will be a better country for it on October 15. Thanks very much.
I have a thank you. I'm a Darug sovereign woman, and you've walked so far for us. I have 2 children in the audience who are, my father was from Sport of the State, went to Ashfield Boys. And I just want to explain what it means for us, for my kids to sit in the front row. In 2020, when COVID happened, and my daughter's autistic, she couldn't speak. There on the left-hand side there, it's important you hear this. Rosie was a twin and her brother passed away. So we were on our knees. And on the week that COVID hit, we called Albanese's office to get a flag because our daughter was experiencing such a hard time. And at the time, I was watching your speech on soft bigotry of low expectations, and it gave me hope. Emma asked for a flag so she could go to the moon, but she wanted the Aboriginal flag because she wanted to believe she could get there. Anthony Albanese's office on the week of COVID hitting was a hard time. He said, "That's the best phone call I've had all day." And the next day on our door was an Aboriginal flag addressed to Emma's dreams so she could go to the moon. Rosie wanted to know where hers was, and it's coming, darling. But that flag now sits on the door of my office at 138 Smith Street, Summerhill, next to the Drugstore Cafe. The curtains are across because it's a difficult time for us. We're under the spotlight. But that flag now sits up there as I write a PhD that addresses how we can belong through the built environment. So I just wanted to say that the ripples of this is so immense for someone like my father to know that his children can come back on sovereign land and be themselves and belong here. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
I just want to say, for the people who are the Kamilaroi and Darug people who are still standing out here, I want to thank you for all the work you've done. I was born to know this place. Ever since I have heard about all the things that were belonged in here, I have always been satisfied. My mom and my sister were also too. They helped me for every single thing, and they made sure I was okay. And I want people to vote yes, because I think maybe we can get a beautiful place and make sure that everything else will be better for the Camaragal people and the Aboriginals and the Torres Strait Islanders. And I really want to say thanks to my aunties, my uncles, and everyone who was Aboriginal, who is seeing this right now. Thank you.
Last week was the ICOMOS General Assembly in Sydney, which brought over 16,000 international delegates into Australia. ICOMOS is the organisation that makes World Heritage listings. At the GA23 Haberfield Seminar on Shared Heritage, from the ABC 2022 Boyer Lectures was cited Indigenous foundations, British institutions, multicultural layers. Mr. Pearson, how do you see the Great Southland moving into the 21st century?
I think we're going to have a new sense of ourselves when we do this as Australians. Once we include Indigenous people in the Constitution, we'll all recognise each other as Australians. The Indigenous, the British democracy in our Constitution, and the great multicultural triumph that we've created in this country. It's absolutely crucial we do this. We'll pull the country together in a new way. It is about time we do this. I really believe that relations between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people will improve after this. It's crucial that it does. I think we'll have a new regard for one another, a new sense of who we are. So I'm really banking on a positive result on October the 14th, banking for all of us. This isn't just something good for Indigenous people, this is something good for the whole country.
What would you say to the warriors?
It's crucial for the soft-nosed kind of people on the edge of going to know, to explain to them that this is not a federal election. This is a referendum. It's not about voting Liberal, Labor, Nationals, Greens or whatever. This is about voting for the country. And they can have their normal political battles in 2 years' time. I think that the rate at which people are swinging from no to yes is quite high if you explain all of the important elements. This is an advisory committee. This is something that there's a guarantee that there shall be a body and that the Parliament will control all of the details. The Parliament has to supply the details. There's lots of examples of legislation running to hundreds and hundreds and thousands of pages, but the power is only a few words long. It's the same here. The power is 92 words long, and Parliament will furnish, presumably, hundreds of pages of legislation, setting out all of the details. So, I want to say to all of you that we must not die wondering. We need to take responsibility. And can I urge that responsibility onto you? It's your numbers that count, not ours. You're 97% of the country. We're 3. We're never going to win a vote on our own. It's crucial that the Australian people step up at this hour. We need you to take responsibility for the Constitution, and we need you to take responsibility for the outcome. And the outcome will really be on you. It really falls to you as the Australian people, as the majority, to deliver this result on October the 14th. So we're all really wanting to galvanise you into action, take ownership of this change, not be reticent about telling people where you stand on this change. They need to hear you. They need to hear your testimony. They need to hear your courage. They need to know the reasons why you think this is important. So I'm urging everyone from the 97% side to step up and take ownership of this. We have to if we're going to win this.
Can I ask you, Noel, if we have a successful vote, yes, on October the 14th, And beyond that, can you cast your mind, let's say 5 years from now, what are the positive impacts that you think that voting yes will have?
The positive benefits of this vote will definitely be felt across the country. It will be tangible in practical ways. We will have a voice stood up in legislation. Programs and policies of government will start being delivered in a new way based on the advice and contribution of Indigenous people. And we're going to own those policies for the first time. At the moment, it is entirely possible for us to say it's the government's fault, because it is the government's fault. Whereas in the future, we're going to own the results. We're going to take desperate ownership of it. And we're going to have to come up with more better ideas than government, more innovative ideas. Some of these long-standing problems are going to need new thinking. And we're going to have to search high and low and come up with new answers to old problems. I think that's the world that will exist in 5 years' time. Problem solving, not just doing the thing and phoning it in, year out, right? But I also think that Australians will have a new sense of who they are. We're not settlers and natives anymore. Settlers and natives, we'll realise, is history. We are Indigenous people. We are inheritors of a democracy that has its provenance in the United Kingdom, but we have adjusted and transplanted it here in this country. And of course, the great multicultural triumph. You know, I say to some groups, we're no longer going to sit in line. We're not going to sit in line, we're going to sit in a circle. Everybody's going to be in the circle. And I think we'll be a beacon to the world, actually. We'll show the world that no matter how intractable the problems and grievances are, that with justice and recognition, we can resolve those problems. We can start to do right what was always wrong. And we'll show people that, well, actually, reconciliation is never too late. It's never too late for reconciliation. That's where I think Australia's going to be in the aftermath of a successful vote.
I've wondered what you thought about this. I'm finding, I've volunteered for the Yes campaign, and I speak to people I would have thought would be in consensus with me, and I think maybe it's a few months ago they were, and now people are becoming quieter. These are friends of mine who are artists on the left and that sort of world, and it seems there's a fear of offending Aboriginal people voting no and saying something like, well, 80% of Aboriginal people polled, voting yes. I think also there's an internet channel, people are going down, and I just wondered what you thought of that. My answer has sometimes been, do you think this country would hear a no vote from non-Indigenous people as a call for more? But please, I wondered if you could advise me for that. Thanks.
With any political struggle, people are going to have a view that the compromise is not acceptable. Either, in this case, on the part of the left, that it hasn't gone far enough, and of course the people on the right are saying it's too much. I think the balance is right. This has been subject to an exhaustive process in the Indigenous community. And the fact is that there is no progressive no, in my view. There's only no. There's not a third box saying, you can vote against this, but we will make sure that we acknowledge it's a progressive no. No, it's the same as Senator Hanson. the effect of what you're doing is the same as the No campaign. You know, the Constitution belongs to all of us, Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people. You've got to make a judgment about what you do as a citizen because it's your Constitution. And you've got to make a judgment as to whether, on the balance of all that you've heard, if 80% of the community are behind this, as our polls have shown consistently, then I think the case for yes is compelling. Those of us who've worked in these fields for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, we are absolutely clear about this, that a yes vote will push our situation decisively forward.
Noel Pearson attended Sydney University back in the early 80s. He lived at number 29 Kensington Road, which is, you can almost see it if you look down the street. I lived in 23, so we became good friends along with two other young fellas, and we became a tight-knit little group, and we played sports around this area. Noel went on to become Noel.
Prime Minister, while you were in Marrickville, maybe in those years, I was hanging out here in Summerhill, and I was very lonely, hugely lonely. So Kensington Road was like an oasis for me, an oasis of belonging, steadfast friends, people who looked after me. So I get very grateful whenever I think about Summerhill and 29 and 23 Kensington Road. I went to more operas in those years with Gail and John dragging me on public transport, no motor cars, off to student rush tickets, up the very front, not knowing what the hell's going on.
We've just come back from the Opera House where the Sydney Symphony Orchestra has been performing, an orchestra of over 100 people to a packed audience of 2,690, I would say, and a member of the orchestra came on to say that the Sydney Symphony Orchestra support the Uluru Statement, and yes, and the audience, the capacity audience stood, and there was a tumultuous applause. Not everybody applauded, I might add. Thank you.